Also ich werde einen kleinen Stunt versuchen, einfach weil es gibt noch eine ganze
I will now try a little stunt because we've had a number of questions that are dealing with the war danger. So I think we'll have to kind of regroup them. We have one question from a member of the Italian Parliament Defense Committee who is very worried about the crisis that is ongoing between Italy and India. There was an incident where two Italian Marines shot two Indian fishermen, and they were arrested, and now this has been blown up into a big crisis. And it's being handled by two oligarchs, Foreign Minister Terzi and Di Mistura, the former head of the WWF. They write, India is an ally of Russia, and it seems that Obama may demand a tough position from the Italian government and yet another crisis in order to provoke another crisis in that area. So the question is whether Russia could help mediate in this crisis in order to help the liberation, to free these Marines. So that was one aspect. Another is to what extent do Russia and China have treaty obligations toward Iran? How would they be obliged to respond to its defense? Then we have a question from Istanbul, from a journalist, Altay. What do you think that Russia, of the idea that Russia would be ready to exchange Syria in exchange in Georgia, so that Georgia would become peaceful, and that would be a kind of deal?
Well, concerning the first point, I think that Russia is very well in the role of a mediator, because it is a conflict which for the nations involved is pretty horrible, but concerning the international situation is actually a very small conflict, and mediations should be possible. I think the danger of the connections between Syria and Iran does play a role. Russia does have cooperations in nuclear development with Kosher and other scientists who cooperate with Russia. Air defense systems have been deployed in Syria by Russia, but I think the danger is much greater, because all experts for Southwest Asia who have ever dealt with this matter will immediately say that an attack on Iran, because of the chain reaction that that would imply, would immediately lead to a war against Russia and China. What would be the chain of events if Israel would strike against Iran and Iran then would strike back against also US-American forces in the region, maybe in Afghanistan or in the Emirates, in the states around the Gulf, then the United States would come into the war. But that would not be in a long-term perspective, because everybody knows who is on whose side, so that probably you would not have a situation where one side uses nuclear weapons and then the other fights back, but that immediately the whole arsenal of nuclear and thermonuclear weapons would be implemented, and that from the standpoint of Russia and China and the build-up of the anti-ballistic missile system in Poland, Romania, and other places as an east extension of NATO is seen, as I have implied, with the General Chief of Staff Makarov of Russia, is connected to the anti-ballistic missile system, but where everybody knows that the defensive system could immediately be changed to an offensive system. And nobody can understand why a system that was implemented by Bush and Cheney, although Obama made explicit statements against it in 2008, now is being followed up by the Obama administration. And we also have to see that with the last travel of Obama in Asia, a whole connection of new bases, new military deals, and military developments have taken place, where the Chinese have very explicitly seen this as an encirclement strategy of China, where they said that they would use military strength to defend themselves. So we have to look at the world situation as a whole, because the regional conflicts are not are only part of the whole showdown, and it's not only the treaties between Russia, China, Iran or Syria, but we have to see that the real people who are being attacked now are Russia and China. And concerning the question of Georgia and Syria, I would not believe this. If we remember how strong Russia reacted to the attempt of Saakashvili to go against South Ossetia, it was a very clear answer that Russia will not capitulate.